Oh,
This is going
man.
to be digital marketing information that you need to know. So we're here to bring the content, and obviously we have a lot of clients who've been on and in the chat and everything, and I think our work speaks for itself. But quickly, Alex, you want to give just a rundown on Neon Canvas, kind of how we got started and all that good stuff, what we do?
The crazy thing is, I think you wrote this question out, sent it to me, and then the next day, Facebook showed a picture of you and I
Yeah,
at a Grizzlies game. And like, it's kind of from the cheap seats too. If you go back and look at that,
I noticed. Yeah.
I was like, wow, we were really sitting up high back then. So, I mean, not that we sit down low now, but at the point in the end, if you want to come to a Grizzlies game when you come to Memphis, we'll take you and you'll have a good time.
Well, we
But
do
five
sit
years
down
ago,
low. I mean, in fairness, we have really good seats, I think. I mean, fourth row, I don't know. It's not bad.
yeah,
They're not
we'll
they're
take them.
not a nil ridiculous seats. He sits on
No,
the floor, like his feet touch the floor and stuff, but they're
wow,
not bad. Better than they
wow.
used to be, you know. Um
So anyway, we started hanging out because you were a client of mine. And what we figured out was that you had this really great way of looking at branding and social media, and you were very detailed oriented and you loved perfection. And what I was a marketer. And when you grow up able to sell ice to an Eskimo, you cling to the things that are really changing lives, that can really affect people. So when I met you and I saw your passion for orthodontics, and then I started working with a bunch of other orthodontists and realizing how much they love what they do. And then you start talking to the patients during these testimonials and you hear these stories, impactful, life changing stories. And it just made me realize, like, wow, this is a calling for me. This is what I want to do. So we ultimately just said, hey, what if we had an agency that focused on orthodontists? And we had, I've been doing this for a long time, plastic surgeons, landscapers, roofers, banks, universities, right? We've worked with all different kinds of companies, but we wanted to focus on this specific niche because we were both so passionate about it. And I think the industry, quite frankly, needed it.
Yeah, right on. So I agree with all that. That was very well said. And it's been a fun ride, man. It's been about 4 years now. April is our anniversary month. And so 4 years or so we've been doing this, and here's to four more. So in this meeting, only like 2 hours left. Now I'm kind of getting sad in a way, but we're gonna push on through. We're gonna push on through. As I said, we're going to look at 5 different areas you need to focus on as it pertains to digital marketing. My story goes that I started from scratch, and that digital marketing was, the number one thing that helped get a from scratch practice off the ground. Now, in fairness, there's a lot more to marketing than just digital marketing. There's internal marketing, there's referral marketing, so on and so forth. There's even traditional marketing, which we don't focus as much on. But digital marketing is still a huge part of our practice and our growth. And it's kind of like the portion that I can count on. Like, I know statistically more about that portion than any others. It's more predictable in that way. And so, Neon Canvas has clients in over 25 states who are orthodontists. And so this is not one of those things, well, it's only going to work in your area or it only works in the big city. I just don't think that's true. I'll push back against that. I think there's probably some markets where perhaps digital marketing is not working as well as in other markets or whatever. There's always that, right? But it is going to work no matter where you are. And I would say this too is that the things that we're sharing here, this is with all good content. It's shared with the mindset that you don't have to pay us to to know this content, right? This is stuff that I've shared since the day I started talking about digital marketing. The problem is that as a busy orthodontist, which we aren't right now, but we will be someday soon. This is information that, yeah, you could probably utilize it yourself, but there reaches a point where you're not going to be able to. So it is very nice to have a company to do this for you. And so the 5 things we're going to look at is going to be, let me just list them off: solid branding, a website that converts, strategic SEO, and a good ad strategy. And then this tip is to avoid shiny objects. And we'll talk about what that means. So number one is solid branding. Branding is a big conversation, but I think that's really where it starts as it comes to marketing, certainly digital marketing. My lecture for the AO and for some meetings coming up, Orthopreneurs, I'll be talking about one time at Brand Camp. And so we'll be talking about branding kind of 101. And so your brand includes, I think, at its core, your mission statement or your core value set, or, you start with your why, you could say. I think then after that, once you understand kind of what your company is about, what you want your voice to be, you go into conversation of who is your avatar client. So who are you selling to? Now, as orthodontists, for a lot of us, that's anyone from, I don't know, 8 to 88. Male, female, and so on and so forth. Probably our core demographic is who I imagine when I think of an avatar client typically is a 38-year-old mom of 2 and a half who's very busy. And so I think that's very important to imagine who it is that you're advertising to, or who you're marketing to, or who you want to come into your practice. I did already allude to voice, but I think voice is very important. Adam Schulhoff alluded to this, is that the voice that works in Oregon for Cole Johnson probably won't work for Adam Schulhoff. Or maybe it just doesn't work because it's not his voice, okay? And so your voice should represent your practice, but it also should speak and be heard by the audience that you're trying to be heard by. And then logo and colors and a lot of these aesthetic elements. Now, I'll say this. I feel like I have a really good eye. I can appreciate art. I did a summer in Florence, and actually with an art majors group. I was like one of 3 that weren't art majors, and it really took. And I feel like I've always loved cinema and things like that. Like, I feel like I have a good eye, and many people do, and some people don't. And so you may look at your logo and like, looks good enough for me. And someone who's an artist might look at it and say, well, it's terrible. So you do need to trust professionals with these decisions. So at base, I had a friend call me. He's an optometrist. He was asking, what he needed to do. And I said, your first thing is you have to get your brand figured out, which is what I'm talking about here. The next part of your brand is the way in which you share that brand with the public. And that's what branding is. You're sharing your identity or your story with the public. Annette Simmons has a book called The Story Factor. She says that if a picture is worth 1,000 words, then a story is worth 1,000 assurances. And that is the goal of branding. It's telling your story, your practice story, to an audience. If the story is good, and once people have heard it enough such that they know you, and hopefully they like you, they will begin to trust you. So trust is predicated on knowledge of you and a relationship with you, which you can achieve much easier now through social media than you could with newspaper ads and television ads. You just think about how long it would take to be able to trust someone 25 years ago. Now it's much simpler with social media. Once someone trusts you, what happens? Well, who are they going to consider for braces other than you if they trust you? Okay. And then, of course, social media, there's a lot that could be said. I won't go into all those details, but that is the vehicle I think that it's best to tell this story and to continue to tell this story and to continue to tell the story. And the goal, again, is developing trust. All right. So number 2, Alex.
Yeah. So if you're doing all this work to develop trust, and ultimately you're doing it to win business, but a lot of people that are coming to us say, hey, I want a website done. And they don't really realize all the other things we do. And quite frankly, all the other things we do are the things it takes to have a great website. So when you come to us and you've got a website from another agency that's in, you can pick one that's in orthodontics, especially the big ones, they are not built to do what they need to do. And I try to explain this between like a Tesla X and a Tesla 3. So they're both nice cars, right? But if you ultimately want to win the race, you want to be number 1 in search engine optimization, you want to gain market share, the Tesla X is going to beat the Tesla 3 every single time. And so you've got to have a website that is built like that Tesla X. It's got more under the hood than the Tesla 3 does. Okay. And the same thing with all websites are not created equal. A company can now easily make one website look just like another website with the video playing, the background, imagery, great storytelling. Any of them, you can do that. But what they can't do is build something that Google's going to look at, say, yeah, that's great, push you to the top, give you authority around your blog posts, rank those up at the top, and then take all that traffic. And once you get it on your site, you've got to convert that into a consultation. You've got to find a way to get that traffic into some type of lead form, whether it's a drip form going into, maybe they followed your social media because they saw that you had great social media and they were interested in your story and your brand. Maybe they weren't ready to buy from you at that moment. But if you're not doing that, then you've got to get that free consultation pushed up to the front of your website. It should really be the only option when they hit your landing page. You shouldn't be trying to show off your team and read about all the doctor's accolades. All those things are great. And you're going to get a chance to do all that. But the first thing you have to do is capture that lead, convert that traffic into a potential customer for you. And then you've got to track it and know that that's exactly what has happened, that a lead has come to you from Google or Facebook or Instagram, and that you turned that into a free consultation. And then you either converted that free consultation into a new patient or you didn't. You've got to have that data from A to Z, and the best place that you can drive leads into your practice is through just organic search, someone looking for an orthodontist or braces and Invisalign. And that leads us to number 3, which is a digital marketing must. Kyle, I'll let you take this one.
Yeah. So one of the most common things I hear, the pushback I hear about digital marketing is with regards to SEO. And so SEO on some level is a black box, meaning we can't see what's inside of it. Now, as I've become, associated with Neon Canvas and really have gotten, behind the stage and see how the sausage is made, as it were. I don't think SEO is as much of a black box as I would have thought from the outside looking in. So SEO stands for search engine optimization. And the number 3 must is that you should be strategic with your search engine optimization. I think things that are packaged as SEO, it's really no different than things that are packaged as orthodontics. A direct to consumer aligner is packaged with the same, concept as if it were a orthodontist providing the treatment. Of course, we would say, well, that's not true. And the same is true of websites. I've seen people, advocating for using, Wix or Squarespace. And I'm not trying to, say negative things, but that is not the same thing as a custom built WordPress website, not even in the same sentence, not even in the same ballpark, whatever you want to say. And the same could be true of SEO. So what's being packaged as search engine optimization probably is not the same thing. And so the important thing is it is extremely important. And Alex said that organic search is really the goal. So this is what I want to communicate to you is that the black box, let's open the lid and let's look inside. And this is not like this esoteric information that only a few have access to. And so you can do web searches and kind of, I condensed the things that I read about SEO and kind of what goes into that mix. And I have 5 things that I've put together. These are the things that consistently show up in terms of what produces a website that then gets shown towards the top on search engines like Google. So number 1 is a responsive and user-friendly website. So the UI or the user interface and the user experience, the UX, both need to be great. Okay. Number 2, you need unique, engaging, and fresh content. We'll come back to some of these. Number 3, you need keyword optimization, which simply means that your website is filled with the keywords that people are searching for. That seems obvious, right? Number 4, quality backlinks. And what a backlink is another website, perhaps with more cachet, as it were, that links back to your website. And so if Google sees that you are friends effectively with a website that has a very high ranking, well, by the nature of you having a relationship, they view you higher. It's no different than the business world. If you're networked with someone that's, in a Fortune 500 company, it's like, oh, this guy. Well, that's kind of cool. So that's how backlinks work. And then 5th, page load speed. Now, there's some other elements, but the point that I like to make is that number 1 and number 5, responsive and user-friendly website, a website that, that is built correctly, let's say. And then number 5, page load speed. Those both have to do with your website. And so to use the car analogy, the Uber X versus the Uber 3, if you have a bad website with a small engine, you're going to struggle to win this SEO race, okay? Now, the 3 in the middle, unique, engaging, and fresh content. How do you get that? Well, you update your interior pages and you do blogs, okay? You may not read blogs. You'd rather be caught dead than read an orthodontic blog. But the point is that those blogs also contain, number 3, keywords, okay? They're optimized for keywords strategically, and people do read them. And someone in Tokyo reading your blog about what not to eat with braces actually makes it more likely that Google shows your website to someone in Memphis, Tennessee, which is incredible, but that's the way it works. And then 4th is probably the hardest one to come by as an orthodontist is backlinks. And that would mean that you're writing articles for Forbes or things like that, and it's linking back to you. And there's some strategic ways to do this. I'll just say this very quickly is that there are a lot of companies that strategize around Google ads because that's quick and you can show a return very easily, but it is short-sighted. Google is 82% of all paid search. And for me, this was a period, and I need to update this data, but May of 2017 to May of 2018, we've grown since then. Organic search in that time amounted for 294 leads that converted, whereas Google Ads was just 42. And so when you look at the difference and then the impressions are crazy on the organic search. It's about 85% of people who click through on that number 1, 2, or 3 result on organic. So that leads, 15% or so that click on the ads. So the ads are important, but let's be honest, what would you rather have? And so to me, let's think about it like real estate. You can rent or you can own, and I would rather own. And owning is effectively like search engine optimization. I want to own that number 1 and number 2 spot when people search, the organic search results that people trust. Wouldn't I also like to rent and have the other spot, which is the Google ad spot? Yes, I'd like to have both of them. And you know what? I'd like to be on the map pack if I can. And so that's what I would say about SEO. And don't be told that SEO is a waste of money, but accept that sometimes it is if it's not being done in a strategic way. So number 4, ad strategy.
Yeah, I love that you're talking about SEO in a way that you broke it down for people. 294 new patients from organic search or leads from that. Google ads being 42 new patients. Even if you just take that Google ads, 42 times your average production, you're well into the $200,000. And Kyle, as you know, on your ads, if you're spending $1,500, $2,000 a month, start to do your ROI there in your head. That's well over a 10x return on that ad budget right there. So you guys have to be paying attention to your ad strategy from a perspective of how much money is it bringing you. If you are just running ads and you're thinking to yourself right now, I don't know how many, and I ask you, how many leads did you get from your ads last month? And you can't tell me that, then whoever's running your ads, whether it's you running it yourself or another partner, isn't doing their job. You've got to have it at the tip of your fingers to know exactly what your ad spend is coming back as a return in your practice. If you spent $1,500, how many dollars came in on the other side of that in production? You've got to have that ROI calculation in your mind at all times. Here's the other thing about Google AdWords is Google is the greatest machine learning company of all time. There's a reason that their search engine has always dominated and will always dominate. But those exact same coders that built that search engine algorithm are building the ad algorithm. They know what searchers want. So if you think that they're not able to get a click for the word orthodontics or Invisalign in braces, you're crazy. They're getting those clicks. They're $1 billion company for a reason. And the average for Invisalign, orthodontics, braces, those type of keywords is $8 all the way up to $18 all across the country. So average somewhere in there in that $14, $15 range to get one click, And that click could be your competitor. It could be somebody trying to sell you something. So you've got to have a team that understands all this, understands how to optimize your budget, understands the machine learning process of Google to make sure your ad strategy is creating the biggest return on investment. And if you've been killing it on Facebook and Instagram and that no longer stops working, then you've got to deploy those dollars elsewhere. You also need to be thinking about some of the less saturated places to advertise, like YouTube, Snapchat. It's certainly still Instagram, but Facebook and Google are very, very expensive. So think about that when you're planning out your ad strategy.
All right, and then we'll wrap it up with a discussion on what I'm calling avoiding shiny objects. And we've got probably 3 or 4 minutes here. And I want to say this with respect because, again, I said this with Adam. There are tools and there are apps that are helpful. But I guess what I would say is it's sort of like putting hubcaps on a broken down car. Okay, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Invest in the car itself. And who cares about the hubcaps, I guess? And so it seems every year or two, there's a wave of things. And one of those recently has been virtual visit, virtual consult tools. Again, some of those are great and in the right position, fantastic. Spend the money on it. And if it makes you more money than what you spend on it, great. But sometimes I feel like these are cart before horse concepts. And so there was the big wave of chat apps, which I'm an advocate for. I think chat apps are great. But the thing is, if you have no one on your website, why do you have a chat app? Right? So you need to first focus on the more important issue, which is, hey, we probably should get some people onto our website. And then, yeah, we want to add the things in to take care of them. It would be like having 3 admin assistants when you don't have but 7 patients a day coming in your office. It makes no sense. And so, again, the most important thing, and it's again, this is not like this, information we're passing down from on high. This is very simple, basic things. The complicated thing is implementing it, and the knowledge is not so easy either. But the thing is, it's simple. You need to get people who are interested in your service from the internet and into your office. And that's it. And so that's why as a business, we've never really focused on tools or apps or add-ons. And we have some of those. We have an analytics software that I think is fantastic. But our job is to create leads. It's to get people into your office who want to pay you money for orthodontic services. And the reason that we feel okay about that is because what orthodontics is great. It's helping shape lives and increase self-esteem. It's helping, obviously, our clients and things like that. And yeah, business is down during COVID-19. We all knew this would happen. But still, in the last 30 days, we've had 99 form fills. Calls are down 60%. But you know what? We've had 104 Google ad conversions. And so what my goal is I want to fill the pond for when we're able to return. And we're using virtual systems to help strengthen our position now. But just don't miss the big picture here, which is you got to have a website that converts and you got to get people on it. And to get people to believe in you and to trust in you, you got to have a good story. And that's really it.
No doubt. I mean, that's the key. And to put it all together, know your return on your investment on all of that, right? So because at minimum, you should be spending 4% of your budget, your revenue every year on marketing. That's at minimum. But if you really want to go in, if you really want to be a market share leader, that's closer to 8%, closer to 10%. But if you're, it's easy to justify that spend, that 4 to 6 to 8% spend when you know exactly how much of it's coming back. And some of the work that you're going to do sponsoring a local baseball team. Kyle sponsors the local football team. He's got his names all on his logo on every single jersey, a cool logo that, by the way, we take his logo and then we design it with a nice crest. It goes on the football jerseys. And Kyle, that's not something he's got to think a whole lot about. He just turns it over to his agency, Neon Canvas. They design it. Boom. Next thing you know, it's on the football jerseys. And that sponsorship activation, it looks great. It's on brand. It makes sense for Kyle, but he'll never be able to calculate the return on investment from that. That's just something in his heart, in his gut that he wants to do to support his community. That's branding. The return on investment numbers are going to come by you tracking your leads, where they came from, and how many of them became patients. And there's great softwares out there to do that. Gauge is one of them. There's our ROI dashboard and analytics dashboard is extremely powerful that all of our clients get access to. And, if you're, again, if let's just use $1,000 a month, if you're spending $1,000 a month on Google or Facebook and you're getting 10 new patients out of that, let's do the calculation here, right? That ROI is large. If you spend 1,000 and get 50,000 in production, that's a huge ROI. And that's an easy justified spend on your marketing dollars, even in a down time like this. Because the first thing I saw come out of the orthodontic community is all of your accountants and bookkeepers are saying, pull your Google ads, pull this spend. And I'm telling our clients, I'm like, that's great, because as they're pulling all that out, it's a lot cheaper for you to gain that market share. So now's definitely not the time to be, overly concerned about your marketing budget. Stick to it. If your revenue forecast went down a little bit, so now instead of the 4% being $100,000, now the 4% is going to be $80,000. You still need to spend that $80,000 marketing your practice.
Yeah, right on. Good stuff. Hopefully you guys got something out of that. We actually have, just so you know, for smaller budgets, if you feel like you've talked to Neon Canvas or you have some concept for what we cost, there is Neon Now, which we don't just promote all that much, but it is for smaller budgets, a little bit quicker turnaround. It's great for new practices. We also have a very free thing, which is an audit of your website, which can give you some good information. And it is perfectly fine if you want to get that audit and never talk to us again. We want you to have this information. Of course, we'd like for you to talk to us, but that's at neoncanvas.com/audit. Again, we've tried to share information as we have it. We've shared virtual visits information, virtual consults information. I shared a video that we produced at cost and time, because nothing makes me happier than to hear that people have been using those tools and those videos and that's been helping their practice. And hopefully you understand that's what this meeting is about. So we will get out of the way now on this. I'm going to switch over.